The day my mother-in-law stood up in court and claimed I was an unfit mother who didn't deserve my own child, she thought her influence would decide everything. But she didn't realize I had spent months preparing for that exact moment. I'm Aisha. I'm 30, and I work as a freelance translator in London. My life has always been quiet, structured around words, deadlines, and the small world I built around my son, Zayn. But after my husband died, everything changed. Grief was still fresh when the pressure started. My husband's family, especially his mother, Farida, became more involved in our lives. At first it seemed like support. She visited often, helped with Zayn, brought food. I thought she cared. I was wrong. Slowly her concern turned into control. She questioned how I raised him, criticized my work schedule, suggested that a single mother couldn't provide the stability a child needed. At first I ignored it, because I thought grief was making her act out. But then the comments became more pointed, more deliberate. Until one day she said something that made my stomach drop. She believed Zayn would be better off living with her. I laughed it off at the time, because I couldn't imagine it going any further. But it did. A few weeks later, I received legal papers. She was filing for custody, claiming I was emotionally unstable after my husband's death. That my work-from-home schedule made me inattentive. That Zayn needed a more structured environment. Reading those words felt like someone trying to erase me from my own life. The worst part was that she had influence, connections, people who were willing to support her narrative. And suddenly, I wasn't just a grieving widow, I was being portrayed as a risk. For weeks I barely slept. Not because I doubted myself, but because I realized something important. This wasn't about concern. It was about control. And if I didn't fight it properly, I could lose everything. So I did what she didn't expect. I prepared. I documented my entire life. School records, daily routines, medical appointments. Every detail that showed Zayn was cared for, stable, and happy. But the real turning point came from something unexpected. Farida had a habit of calling me frequently, often criticizing my parenting. At first I would just listen. But over time I started recording those calls. Not out of fear, out of instinct. And what those recordings revealed changed everything. It wasn't concern. It was intention. She spoke about wanting control over my husband's assets, about ensuring Zayn grew up her way, about how she believed I was temporary, replaceable. Those words weren't meant for anyone else to hear. But they were real. And they were undeniable. When the court hearing arrived, Farida walked in confidently, dressed perfectly, supported by relatives who believed her version of the story. She spoke calmly, presented herself as a caring grandmother trying to protect her grandson. For a moment, it almost worked. Until it was my turn. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue emotionally. I presented facts. My life, my routine, my role as a mother. And then my lawyer introduced the recordings. The room changed. The carefully built image she had created started to crack. Her words, her intentions, her motives, all laid out clearly. Not as accusations, but as truth. The judge listened carefully, asked questions, reviewed everything. And when the decision finally came, it was clear. The custody claim was denied completely, and concerns were raised about her intentions. I walked out of that courtroom with my son, still mine, still safe, still loved. Farida still sees him occasionally, but under boundaries that didn't exist before. And I've learned something I will never forget. Sometimes the people who claim they know what's best for your child aren't trying to protect them. They're trying to control them. But the truth has a way of protecting what matters most. Especially when you refuse to let someone else define your place in your own child's life.